in this episode.
Yeah, and that was like I feel like the early 2000s was kind of just like a generation of these guys are just making the most random shit in the world.
Oh no, it's not even, that doesn't compare to nothing like the guys in the 80s.
Oh,
okay?
I mean,
they
had cocaine. I mean, that's
look, they had cocaine, and they had
money.
never-ending fucking Cold War money, bro. Like, I mean, America flew B-27 or B-29 stealth bombers or strategic bombers or B-2 bombers or whatever the hell, non-stop around the entire fucking like Western Hemisphere.
In an obtuse world, Mark and Jefe will combine military, law enforcement, and general FUD knowledge to keep you vertical. Welcome to the Live, Laugh, Larp podcast.
Hey everybody, what's going on? Thanks for joining us on another edition of the Live, Laugh, Larp podcast. We sure do appreciate you guys swinging by. And guess what? Not only do we have the co-host Jefe sitting right next to me. How you doing?
I'm back.
Yeah, there he is.
I lived to tell another tale. I don't remember why I missed the last one, but oh yeah, I didn't want to.
That's fair. That's fair.
No, family stuff came up.
Yep. But the other awesome thing is this episode is our 1 year anniversary. I can't believe it. We've been doing it for a year.
I wish I had like a pocket of confetti just to throw in the air and just not pick up and just leave it in this basement.
Oh yeah. So, but we've been doing this a year, and the only reason why is because, well, there's two reasons why. Number one, it's because you guys are actually tuning in to listen to us, which we certainly do appreciate it. Obviously, as Jefe would say, if you're listening to us on Spotify, that is the king of kings.
The GOAT, if some we would.
Okay.
The master race.
Even though 69% of our listeners are listening to, are listening onto Apple Podcasts.
Oh, boo.
Boo. But let's do just real quick here. A little bit of trivia here. Okay. Where do you think the number 2 location, or obviously United States is going to be number 1 location of most listens. Where do you think number 2 is?
Washington, D.C.
No, that's in the United States.
Is it?
Yes.
Is it
another country?
Another country. Let's go with Switzerland.
Oh, that's actually not too far off.
Oh,
it's right next door.
Oh, there's a lot of next doors. France or Germany?
Germany.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
cool.
Germany.
Germans. Hey,
so,
that's awesome.
United States, Germany,
Guten
Canada.
Abend, meine Deutsche Herren? Herrens? I don't remember.
So United States, Germany, Canada, Sweden.
Ooh.
And then United Kingdom. So we got the Brits in there in the top 5. So appreciate you guys listening.
We are Mr. Worldwides.
Yeah, we are. We
Mr.
are
Worldwides.
So that's number 1. We're listening. We're here because you guys are listening. We want to say huge thank you to AK Thumb Grips. He dropped in a comment on the YouTube channel.
Oh,
so you guys can listen to us on YouTube's if you want to do that. He said he subbed. So we've got
at least one.
Yeah,
we got one.
We actually have 20, believe it or not.
Oh, we're about like halfway to your YouTube channel.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. So but the second reason why we've been able to do this for a year is because
Mark holds me captive in this basement and forces me alcohol and to talk on a microphone for 2.5 hours.
So you're only drinking beer. You're not even drinking alcohol.
That's alcohol.
So,
it's all the same.
Okay. Well, I've got a whole counter.
It's because of Atero Arms.
That's exactly why Atero Arms has been sponsoring us for the better part of the last year, and we certainly do appreciate it. They've been able to help us purchase a new audio interface, which is awesome, which means that we're going to be able to hook in a few more mics. We're hoping to have a guest here soon. We're going to be recording on location. It's going to be pretty cool, I think.
Oh yeah, that one. I was
I
was like, I don't remember talking about this one.
But we'll actually have like 3 mics, and then naturally coming up here in January, we're going to have a SHOT Show. We're going to have a SHOT Show special, which will have 4 guests on that one. So that's something we're going to be looking forward to. Again, all of that's possible because of Atero Arms supporting us. So we do appreciate them. And what else? What else you got? You got anything?
No, still captive.
You're not held captive. You're not. You love every minute of it.
Oh, it's fun. Again, we were just talking about this offline beforehand. It's like the only reason I think this even started was we try to at least justify us talking 2 hours about guns and
Mhm.
and buying random stuff to fulfill our deepest desires.
Mhm.
And now we get to share all those weird internal monologues with you guys. So thank you so much for listening for 1 year. And hopefully we can continue to do this and be as big as Joe Rogan one day.
No, yeah, that'd be nice.
We'll have Trump on. We'll have Trump on.
Exactly.
October 26th.
Yeah.
No.
That's in the past.
Yes. Oh, in the past. Yeah. November 1. So
remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot.
oh, okay. I'll watch that movie too.
I literally just watched that movie 2 months ago.
Well, so without going too much of a tirade, we have a very special guest on for us today. It is Cody with Red Right Hand Arms. Cody, how are you doing this evening?
Pretty good. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. Hey, thank you for coming on such last minute. We had, I know it was kind of this 2 days ago you agreed to do this, so we appreciate that so much. So
yeah. We were hoping to have a different guests, but we just scheduling conflicts.
So you are silver medal. Thanks, man.
Yes.
Sweet. So silver's just as good.
So Cody, who are you? What do you do?
Well, I'm Cody. I own Red Right Hand LLC, and we are me, myself, and I. Well, of course, I have buddies that help out, but I am a pretty much one-man show. But what I do is I make auto rifle upper receiver groups. So kind of like your new civilian auto rifle, light support weapon. We make infantry automatic style AR-15 upper receivers.
Okay. So we had Night Fighter on, what was it, 2 months ago, 3 months?
Yeah, something like that. Mm-hmm.
And you guys got brought up a ton. So tell us a little bit, since you are the biggest purveyor of the IAR, the auto rifle, what is this magical thing and why is it better than the recce rifle?
Well, it's okay. Objectively, it's built for a task. So, okay, like everybody gets, tied up of like having the one all BL rifle. That's fine, but you don't take a Honda Civic, which you can say is the one all BL car, right? But you can't take the Civic to the Le Mans and drive that thing 24 hours and like be competitive because guys are.
I bet you get good gas mileage though.
Yeah, you won't have to great gas mileage, but you definitely probably get your ass handed to you by cars that were built to do the law. So, I wanted to focus on making an upper receiver group that would be built to do a task, and the task being the infantry automatic rifle, which would be your squad basic fire. And so that's, when you compare it to a recce rifle or a DMR or something like that, I say it's still an unfair comparison. Yes, you have some overlap, of course, but it's meant to do a task. So that was the one thing I wanted to focus on, was like, how do you make like literally like the best version of one thing to do a job. I feel like these days, the GPR idea, has a purpose, but again, a jack of all trades still isn't a specialist in something. So
exactly. And I think I think a lot of the gun community and the guys that are getting really big into sort of, I guess, more of like the team-based loadouts for rifles and everything, try to all just pick a GPR, general purpose rifle, and call it good. But it's good to have that nice little spread of just like love to different little tasks. So what makes an auto rifle upper? What's so special about it that makes it so much more better?
More better. Well, you still got to have a rifle built to handle heat. Of course, in this task, you're going to be shooting a whole lot more than you would be shooting with your standard rifle. A lot of people get this confused where they think they're going to make an AR-15 at 240 Bravo, and that's just not going to happen. Like 240 Bravo is a 240 Bravo. You have an AR-15, okay? Like the AR-15 can do a lot. That's why I love the platform so much. Is because it's so damn versatile, and it's just constantly been evolving ever since it's been created. It shows its amazing design is how modular it still is to even this day, damn near 50, 60 years since it's been made. So, for when I approached it, it was, well, we have to manage heat. we have to have components built to handle said heat because you're going to be shooting more than the average rifle. The idea is you're going to be getting this gun really hot really often. And yes, you can get a standard rifle hot and you can, kind of flex into it, but you're going to be doing damage to that rifle because that rifle's just not meant to do it. You redline a motor too much with not enough oil in it, you're going to be burning up the motor. Yes, it'll do it, but you're going to basically cook it alive. So you have to have a barrel that is going to be thick enough to handle this because there's a lot of things about like the government profiles and stuff. They're meant to be light so you can carry them easier, but they present some pretty thin points in that barrel, which will heat up faster than other sections in the barrel. And you get inconsistent cooling, you get flex, you get warp, you get all sorts of just bad stuff happening when you get some of these lighter profiles really hot. So you go to a thicker barrel. So you want to have like a SOCOM profile or a full-on H-bar profile that's like 980, which is just shy of 1 inch, is what I use here. And the thing about a big thick barrel is, okay, it takes longer to heat up, but it takes an astronomically longer time to cool it down. Because now you have a bunch of thermal mass that you've now gotten really hot. And yes, it has more surface area, but it's still steel. So when you get an H-bar hot, it's going to stay hot. So knowing that and looking at the design of like, well, how do you mitigate that? Well, you're going to have to find a way to cool it off better. So a lot of places, guys have like fluting in barrels, which helps increase the surface area, lightens the mass a little bit. But then again, now you're looking at having a barrel with inconsistent thick sections and lighter sections, and you're going to have spots that will warm up quicker because there's less material. To cool off, but it's not, in my opinion, not really doing the job as well as it could be. So when I approached this, it was, okay, so we need to make a heavy barrel to handle high volumes of fire. But then after that, what are you going to do to, help give that weapon a service life and keep it going longer? And that was like, well, let's just use thermodynamics here and put another material on top of the barrel that sheds heat quicker. Aluminum draws heat from steel, and aluminum sheds heat faster than steel. So simple idea was just make aluminum heat sinks that you can stack 1-to-1 to that H-bar barrel, increase the diameter from 980 to 125, so it's 1.25 inches underneath the handguards there. But that aluminum is going to be pulling the heat away from the steel actively and dropping it as fast as it can, which will allow the steel to warm up evenly and cool down evenly, but run longer because you're not going to be at critical temps as high for as long. Like, it takes longer to get to those critical temperatures, and once you get there, you're cooling them down. So you're going to extend the service life of the weapon platform and barrel, which allows you to do a lot of fun things. If you don't have a barrel that gets hot, you don't have to worry about having harder coatings or anything like this, because the enemy of all guns is heat, right? So when you get stuff hot, you start breaking it. But if you're not getting it as hot and you're keeping it within a comfortable temperature, it's like having a radiator on your car, right? You can run a motor without a radiator for a while. But if you have a radiator, you get a service life out of the motor. So by putting that on there, what that's doing is extending the service life and the capability of that barrel for longer to do that job. So that's what I did. I made an aluminum heat sink that slips over the barrel 1-to-1. You press it on, and when it gets hot, it pulls the heat out. And on average, the LMG rifles that we make, which are 20-inch, the name LMG is also just a nod to the Colt LMG, which was a huge inspiration for me, and I really liked those for a long time. The Recce LMGs will be about anywhere from 40 to 60 degrees cooler, depending on your shooting conditions, your round count, and all that fun stuff. And then the shorter 16-inch IARs, we advertise anywhere from 60 to 80, but I've had numbers as high as 110 difference in temperatures. So it's pulling so much heat out of those barrels, it's keeping them from heating up. You could do 180 rounds on a SOCOM M4 barrel, and you'll be at 330 degrees. in 4 minutes. If you shoot 180 rounds in 4 minutes, full auto. You do it with my heat sink system. A couple of tests we did, we saw it be down to 202 in
Right
the
on.
same time span. So
Oh, wow.
the system's pulling a lot of heat,
Right.
Yeah.
which objectively keeps your barrel from warping, but also keeps you more accurate longer.
Right.
All the stuff that you have problems with heat, you know.
So for like the layman that might be listening, how does the heat sink, how is that different than like the heat shields you might find in an M4 handguard system? Is it still kind of similar to that, or is there different voodoo that you've put into it?
Well, so the heat shields, those are just protecting your hands. This is built to grab heat and pull it out of a barrel and then shed that heat off the barrel. So, layman's terms, not everybody has like an air compressor in their shop or anything like that, but like you'll see like heat coil fins and stuff on like computers and stuff like that, giant heat sinks on the back of computer equipment, and those are giant aluminum fins. And what that's doing is pulling the heat from, say, the CPU or whatever, and distributing it along a surface area of aluminum, and that aluminum is going to let it go into the air easier than it would on the product that it's attached to.
Right.
It's a heat sink.
Mhm.
So that's what I make, is a heat sink, and that's what coats the barrels, and that's what we do on all the auto rifles.
Right.
So it's building it to have that service life to do a high volume count setup.
When you're pulling these uppers together, what are some of the components that you prefer to use as far as like, say, like your barrels? I mean, is there a specific type of barrel that you prefer? Obviously you've talked about it being 20 inches, but is there, are you looking at certain types of like carpenter steel, or are you still utilizing like 4150 cold hammer forged steels, or how does that break down?
Oh, so all the barrels I use are 4150 button nose rifled. They're not cold hammer forged.
Okay.
The barrels, for the most part, are made by Roscoe. I basically, as a manufacturer, I hand them my list of wants and needs on a print, and then they make a gun, those barrels to my print. Our barrels have to be, since the heat sink system is a 1-to-1 fit, we have a really tight tolerance on the barrel profile between the gas journal and the extension, because that's where the heat sinks live. They live over the top of your chamber all the way to the back of your gas block. So that has to be a very tight dimension. We actually hold that within 2000, so we can actually get the heat sinks, which are made within 2000 tolerance, to be able to fit and slide down and attach to those. So it's not a universal system. It requires barrels to be with really tightly held tolerances to, my 980 profile or a 875 SOCOM profile. But we offer it nitride, and we also offer it in chrome lining. Chrome lining being really popular. I don't, I've talked about this to other people. I don't, when it comes to like cold hammer forge stuff, there's a lot of marketing behind a lot of that, in my opinion. I don't find cold hammer forging objectively better than a button nose rifle. Some people are going to be like yelling at me, heresy, don't you fucking say anything bad about cold hammer forge. Okay, no, cold hammer forge has been around a long ass time. It's used by militaries because it's cheap. So why are you spending $400 for a barrel, bro?
Right.
It's the cheapest way to make a barrel. So you got to ask yourself, where's all that value built in? I don't see it. So some people are like, you have to have it for high volume round counts, because cold hammer forge holds together better because of the way the grain structure is, and you guys will get super autistic into it. And, well, I'm very autistic. I'm still not impressed. So the reason why you would do that is because you have a barrel that is getting really, really hot and cooling off a lot all by itself, right? It's going through all these crazy heat cycles, which objectively, sure, a barrel manufactured in that manner would be really good, say on a 240, because like all the 240s, for example, it's just a barrel. You guys, were in the military at one point, so like it's just a barrel. There's nothing on it. There's no fins or anything. It's just a big, thick barrel. So yeah, having that type of steel to handle that job makes sense. But when you have an active cooling system essentially on your barrel, which keeps it in the temperatures way lower than it would be if it didn't have it, do you need cold hammer forge? No, in my opinion, no. Because our 4150 button nose rifles aren't getting near as hot, so therefore, you don't need to, in my opinion, put cold hammer forging in there. It's just not. It's not for the value, in my opinion. I just don't see it. I think nowadays we're seeing technology with stainless steel barrels that are pushing round counts higher than 4150 for crying out loud, and nobody wants to talk about it because everybody is bought into big chrome and big hammer forge advertising. In my opinion.
You heard it here first. Big chrome line, big chrome line barrel
industry, right?
Yeah, well, there's shit, dude. Back when I've been doing this a while, and in like 2018, I couldn't sell a cold, working for other people, you couldn't sell a chrome line barrel. Nobody wanted it. Literally, nobody wanted it. It was everybody wanted nitride. Nitride is objectively way better than chrome, like all day long. It has way less problems. It's not an additive buildup. It's a modern day process. It's far superior to chrome in every way. And the best part is it costs way less to do. So you can bring the cost down to the consumer also a lot by giving them a high quality hardened coating that's all over the barrel, added no dimension problems to it whatsoever. It's there and it just does its job. Whereas chrome still requires you to, it's an additive process. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of bad things that can happen in an additive process, and they still do. Even to the best barrel makers that do the best chrome, you'll still see issues that appear with chrome that you would not see in nitride.
Hold up. So you're telling everyone listening to this right now that the gun industry wants you to buy the more expensive, less durable product for a higher cost?
Yes and no. So it's what it comes down to is chrome can fail in a lot of ways that nitride won't, right? Chrome can eat out, it can fall out. You can have an issue where it wasn't prepped correctly and it's actually floating on nothing. It never actually attached to the material below it. And then when it finally cracks, it takes a whole shelf out. That's it's been present in chrome barrels ever since they started chroming barrels. For some reason, in 2020, with everybody magically being trapped in their house for random no reasons whatsoever,
why was that?
I don't know. It's just really crazy.
We were all on vacation in 2020.
Yeah, everybody's on vacation, sitting behind their computers and reading everything they could on the internet, believing whatever. And suddenly Chrome was like, you had to have Chrome again. And then nobody wanted to buy nitride. And well, now everybody wants to buy Chrome. So, but I think it was just, again, a marketing ploy, in my opinion, to get people to buy chrome barrels. But it's more expensive to do. It costs more money to manufacture a chrome barrel.
And one of the things that I was always told is that, adding chrome lining to a barrel then ends up creating inconsistencies within the bore of the barrel that affects accuracy. It may, quote unquote, prolong the barrel life, but for most people are not shooting enough for it to even matter. That's been my biggest thing. What I've probably been saying for the last year or so is people are like, oh, well, I want X, Y, and Z because it's going to last longer. And I was like, well, you're not shooting enough for it to matter, so why spend that extra money when you could be putting that into something, like a better optic or, heat sinks or
it comes down to objective stuff. Everybody wants to have the gun they can fight the moon Nazis with in a lava field on the moon.
We like to call them the moon World War II Germans.
Like I don't know. Some people, they have unrealistic expectations of a lot of things. And it's, if you look at it objectively and you kind of start to learn stuff, you're like, oh, maybe I don't need that. I mean, chrome inconsistency. I mean, I know chrome barrels shoot still lights out, right? I mean, if you do it right, it still shoots lights out. No one's going to argue that Criterion doesn't make exceptionally good chrome line barrels. They're very accurate. My Roscoe chrome line barrels are insanely accurate. I shoot them. I just shot a group the other day. We got 10,000 rounds on one of the demo uppers here, and of course, not nice shooting. Right? It's 10,000 rounds of like abusive mag dumps because that's how we do things. You know, and we loan those uppers out to anybody on YouTube that wants to do a review. It's the same 2 upper receivers that are floating around the internet, and people shoot the crap out of them. And I got it back here the other day, and the gun still shoots MOA with me behind the gun with a crappy mil spec M16 trigger in it. I'm sure I can probably tighten it up if I had a better trigger in that gun, or I brought out my Hyperfire Auto. But chrome is really good in a gun where you're also going to get really hot, but you have nothing to cool it off with. Adding the chrome to my heatsink system is just like super overkill. I mean, people like super overkill. I mean, I'm all about overkill too, but I don't think it's as necessary. I have a 16,500 round barrel here that's nitride from when I very first started. That gun still shoots just under 2 MOA with 16,500 rounds of full auto mag dumps on it. It still has a huge surface life left in that barrel, but people like chrome.
Big chrome. They bought the lie.
Yeah. It's not a huge lie, but I think it's an overzealous ideology that you have to have it. Most people only shoot enough to notice the difference. I guarantee all my barrels, I'm like, hey, if you shoot 40 cases of ammo through this thing and it stops being accurate, then I will give you a brand new barrel. Send it in. I'll rebuild your whole upper. I don't care. That's totally on me. I'm happy with that. You got a ton of value out of that gun. But most people aren't going to shoot that much. I challenge all those guys to do it. Shoot the shit out of it. Try not to, don't go out and abusively try to blow the damn thing up. That's not covered. But everything else, like normal use, is obviously covered. So you run it out of auto range all the time, and you finally shoot it out. Let me know.
Right on.
Most people won't shoot to that level. But if you also have a barrel that's doing a normal life cycle, right? Even in the role of an auto rifle, but it's staying cooler than it would if it didn't have heat sinks on it. It extends the service life drastically in its ability to continue to be accurate for a long period of time. So,
right on.
So kind of switching gears, we went straight into barrel theory and heat mitigation, but so how did you get into building the premier garage single man built auto rifle uppers? How did that become to fruition?
Well, I guess it's a long story, but we got time. Back when I first got started in the industry, I got a job working with Frank DeSelma at Patriot Ordnance Factory. This was back in early 2007, 2008. And during that time, the government had the IAR contracts out. They were trying to get companies to submit an infantry automatic rifle to trials. And POF was one of those companies, along with tons of other companies, including HK and stuff. So I got introduced to the idea of the infantry automatic rifle right at the start of my building career. And I always liked the concept because to me it made a whole lot more sense than a saw. I mean, I still like saws, don't get me wrong, but the saw was, in my opinion, a very stopgap, weird. We want the 240, but we have to buy the saw. So fuck it, we'll make that the auto rifle so we can buy 240s from Belgium and then move them to America under some shady contract deal or whatever. It's I like the idea of the auto rifle, right? The idea of having a rifle that literally is the same rifle next to the guy next to you. It looks the same, but it's built for the purpose of shooting more accurate and high volumes of fire, using the same ammunition and magazines. That way you kind of blend in with the unit. basically modern day VAR. I think it's a great idea. So that's where I kind of like. I mean, it was my first introduction to the idea. Got to talk to a lot of Marines and stuff like that. That eventually got issued the M27 and all that stuff once it got adopted. The HK won the contract. Being in the industry for a while, working with other people, like I saw that the auto rifle had a lot of potential in the civilian market because we have the wonderful NFA. You guys, you can't go into your gun shop and buy a full auto saw very easily. Hopefully one day. We're getting close. But the idea was like looking at, in 2018, I started seeing a lot of content on YouTube and stuff where guys were out starting to work more in groups, and the need for a squad base of fire was really starting to pop up, and I was like, man, if I start making guns, I think that's something I'd like to address, because I had ideas back then to do, the like a heat sinked gun. I was like, well, what would you use it for? It's like, well, infantry automatic rifle makes a whole lot of sense. And, of course, we had the rise of binary triggers and all that. And guys started flexing their GPRs into round counts that you probably shouldn't be shooting your government profile barrel like that. You're going to cook it and kill its service life by heating it up like that. So, when the opportunity arose and I started my own company, I was like, I want to get back into doing full-on AR stuff again, because I was doing separate blocks and gunsmith work, and I was like, well, I want to do that heat sink idea. So that's kind of how I did it, and that was during 2020, and the rise of infantry style training for civilians is kind of, I saw that being a trend and growing, and now it's a lot bigger than it was 4 years ago. It's a lot more commonplace. We're seeing that, and it was like, it just happened to be kind of predicting the market shift to where that, like a niche product like that, would actually make sense, and then of course Ukraine kicking off really kind of put that into a lot of guys' minds of, oh, maybe we should be working together, because you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go as a team. So that trend kind of kicked in, and then I happened to be standing there with like the ultimate, in my opinion, the ultimate way of doing it, which is, the Recce LMG was that brainchild, and it happened to be, in my opinion, still is the best product to purchase if that's what you plan on doing with it.
Right.
So you just what did you do before you got to kind of get into the gun industry? What were you doing beforehand that kind of helped build this brainchild?
I was just, well, I got in the gun industry when I was still in high school. So I was like 17 when I started building guns. So it's kind of been me my whole life. I've been a gun nut since I was like 5.
That's
I've
cool.
always wanted to do something with firearms, when I was younger, though, I got a vaccination that gave me Guillain-Barré syndrome, which I don't know. People started to know what that was after wonderful 2020, but basically made me heavily allergic to getting vaccinated. So my opportunities to join the military and all that fun stuff kind of went bye-bye immediately with that.
Yeah. They love getting their vaccinations.
They love to, stick you a lot, don't they?
Yeah. This like sad story. My dad actually has cancer from over vaccination from his time in the military. That's how bad it is.
They make you all a test guy, and they stick a lot of stuff on you. And having that, it's a medical thing. They're like, well, I mean, flip a coin. How lucky do you feel? Is it either A, you're going to be okay, or you will die from whatever they give you. And at the same time that I got sick, I went to, it was a clinic that, the school's like, you got to get vaccinated. And so they also sent a couple other people there, and another gal in the same year, class of mine, she got meningitis from it. And now she's, messed up. I think she kind of like regressed into like being 8 years old, and really messed her up,
Yep.
and I got off lucky. I got like tetanus. So I was paralyzed for 7 months and I couldn't walk, that was great, and it was a long recovery, but, so, I wanted to help, obviously. I still wanted to do something with the military, but at the same time, also love guns. So it was like, what's the next best thing you can do? Shit, let's build badass guns for guys to use and be able to design new things that would be more effective. I've always been that kind of autistic mindset of building something. I've always liked building and creating, and I like manufacturing and design work. So guns made a lot of sense. And then I happened to fall into getting a job, and I started working with POF at a young age. And then I went to Colorado School of Trades as a gunsmith at 18. And that's when I got to hang out with, it was like 140 students, and 120 of them were all veterans. Like a bunch of the guys at the time too. A bunch of them were fresh out of Fallujah, and the surge and all that stuff. So I got around a lot of veterans, and I learned a lot of experiences from them, and combat and all that stuff. They tell you about what gun design were. They were all there too because they were passionate about firearms. But like, how do we make sure we don't have these same problems that we had when we were in? How do we keep that from being a negative experience for future generations? And so yeah, I've been in the industry a long time. And I just wanted to, I like working with guns. And from there, let's see. I did do a contract though. I did go to Kuwait on a government contract as a private civilian gunsmith. And that's when I got a ton of experience on 240s, Mark 19s and 50 cals and all that fun stuff. I basically worked on anything that went on a truck. Did some Bushmaster chain guns. We did some howitzers on occasion. The port firing weapons. I can't remember what it's like an M2, M320 or something. 320. I don't know. Bunch of, we got to work on a bunch of different military guns. I did that for a year. And I also built the beloved Kalashnikov for a while. I worked for a company that built Kalashnikovs.
An American-made one, or?
No, well, I don't know how familiar you are with them. The company was Definitive Arms. So I went to school with Chase Sisgold, and Chase invented a magazine well that allowed you to take a 223 Saiga and give it the manual of arms essentially as an M4. You would take M4 magazines, AR-15 magazines, you would fire it, and then it would have a bolt last round hole open, and you would have a button and drop the mag, and then you had a push button release just like on a paddle on an M4, and you would drop the bolt, and it would make your Saiga run like an M4. I think he was one of the very first guys to do that. So I worked with him for a little while, and then I moved to Idaho from Arizona, and I got out of the industry for a little while, but I was still consulting with some people and going to SHOT Show and all that fun stuff. And then started working. We moved from like way up in the mountains down back into the valley here, and that's when I started working for Independence Indoor Shooting. I was a gunsmith there for a couple of years, and then that's fun. I really hate gunsmithing. I mean, I'm a gunsmith, but I don't like working on like fixing guns. I can do it, just it's not my favorite thing. I like designing stuff and building stuff. So, but and then from there, I worked for Primary Weapon Systems for a little over a year, and then COVID hit, and my dad he had lung cancer at the time, so I stayed home to take care of him, and then that's when I started Red Right Hand and started designing stuff, and then it just kind of took off from there.
Right. So did you have to come up with your own kind of, I guess, press system and kind of engineer your own manufacturing methods for these for like the heat sinks and matching it up in barrels, or was it something that is and I'm going to feign ignorance here. I don't know much about the auto rifle world. Was it something that's already kind of done? Is this, you're doing it better, or is it something you had to design from like the ground up?
That's basically starting off. It's a 20-inch M16, which is, in my opinion, the pinnacle M16. that's Eugene Stoner built it right the first time. Everybody else is just basically going down a rabbit hole of fucking something up and having to find a solution to make it actually work. Whereas it was perfectly good. I believe a lot like Clint Smith says, the best fucking M16 we got it was all done by 74. The 74, like 1974, 75 was like peak M16A1, right? It was like nailed down. Everything was figured out. Like that was the best possible version. And ever since then, we just keep messing with it, right? But the benefits of being a 20-inch rifle system is you have less parts breakage. It's more reliable. There's just a lot of good things when you have the linear gas system of the M16 at rifle length. Dwell times and just how everything interacts. It's super soft. You have extreme longevity. So it's just, how do you, if we're going to build a gun that's going to be like a high volume weapon system that's going to get abused, well, versus making it something that's a violent system that's beating itself apart, you should go right to the, where you have the nice, smooth operating system to get started and have the ability for it to have that longevity because, well, you're not trying to do an M4 or a Mark 18 or something where everything's beating the ever-living shit out of itself. The M16 is extremely smooth. So, it wasn't really a matter of reinventing the wheel or anything. It was just doing a good execution of already good thought ideas. Some other people out there have put aluminum on barrels. Frank at POF was big on making the heat sink barrel nut, where basically the barrel nut itself was a heat sink. I wanted to go further. I wanted to coat the barrel in aluminum instead of just the barrel nut. The idea being that you would be cooling the barrel. So, I had to basically, get a consensus at the time because I couldn't afford to just buy barrels. It was like, I'm going to have to source barrels of the proper diameter that I want and hope to God that they're within tolerance. Otherwise, the heat sink's going to be way too big or way too small. And so then, you kind of end up having a situation where you're like sorting through barrels, trying to find stuff that's going to mate up correctly, or putting the heat sinks on a lathe and opening them up to the proper diameter so they like 1-to-1 fit. So at first, it was a little bit difficult until you do enough of them, you make enough money off of that, you can reinvest and then get a minimum order quantity of barrels made, which is it's not an easy thing to do, especially when you're a one-man operation. But so it was, coming up with the tolerances that were allow the greatest fitment of barrel adaptation, and of course that's prototyping, and prototyping is expensive.
Yep.
When you ask a machine shop to make one of one thing, they're gonna be like, "Bro, that's expensive, man." So you got to spend the time to do that. It's assembling my stuff once it's squared away. It's pretty quick. It goes, being a guy who's assembled thousands and upon thousands, tens of thousands of AR-15s. That's the easy part. Already knowing kind of where to go, but it was a little bit of a trial and error to get it. At one point I was using a press to get them on. Sometimes we heat them up and then slip them on. Nowadays, everything just requires just the right amount of heat, and everything slips on, and then it grabs really nice and tight, and it doesn't go anywhere because everything's made 1-to-1, which makes things so much easier.
Yeah, and then no, you mentioned that you have these for most of your platforms, you have a custom made barrel, and it's Roscoe, right?
Yeah, Roscoe.
So how did that kind of relationship begin? How did you go from, I guess special ordering barrels to now having almost kind of like a sole relationship with Roscoe?
Yeah, I mean, the industry, if you get into this and you want to have something made, which 80% of the gun industry doesn't technically make everything in-house easily. Yep. They source it. Right. It's like kind of like the car industry, the airplane industry. That's how the global economy works. Very, very, very few AR manufacturers actually make a majority of their gun in-house. So you basically you can go to like places like SHOT Show and whatnot, and you can find any supplier to make you anything. You need bolt carrier groups. There's about 7 or 8 guys out there that will absolutely make you bolt carrier groups. Some of those guys are truly making the bolt carrier groups in house. Some of those guys are subsourcing those.
Yeah.
It does happen. So Roscoe has been great to work with. Basically, I got out there and I met Rich, and Rich was like, "What can we do for you?" And I'm like, "I need a barrel." He's like, "All right, cool." And you can give them the specs of what you want, and they're going to have a minimum order quantity. Depending on how big you are, it's going to that minimum order kind of shift. And at the time that I was needing barrels, Roscoe was, they had an opening where they were like, we can make a smaller half batch, versus a full batch, and, get you in the door without, bankrupting you kind of thing. And they're amazing to work with. They got exactly, I told them exactly what I wanted, and they've always provided exactly that. Like, they've met all the criteria, and, it's great. You'll find that in the industry, though. It's a matter of just finding you just start talking to those people. I've had other people quote me to do barrels and stuff, but sometimes I'm not like going to go try to save a few bucks a barrel. If it's questionable quality, right? Like, I know what I'm getting when I go to Roscoe. They're giving me exactly what I want. So that's I guess that's how you can kind of put that.
And then so then the big question is, what are they, nitride, chrome?
We do nitride and we do chrome.
Okay.
So we offer both. Again, at the end of the day, something I've learned a lot from other guys that I've worked with is you can have the perfect gun idea in your head, right? I have certain things that I think are like the cat's meow. I could build a gun for exactly me, and then congratulations, the market is just me. So you want to build guns that also will sell. If you are able to modify and make something that adapts to multiple people where they feel like that's the pinnacle for them, then there you go. You're going to have a sale. You still got to make money at this. Otherwise, I'd be eating ramen every day. Like, I have to still make guns for people. Like, I don't personally think the chrome line is necessary for the deal. However, other people would look at the product and go, I love the product. I would feel better if I had a chrome line barrel. Ta-da, here you go. I have a chrome line barrel.
There you go.
And I made sure we did a great job on them. They're wonderful barrels. Everybody that has them is super stoked. Mm-hmm. And there you go, chrome line barrel. I got other guys that are like, I really just want a nitrate. Look at that. I got the nitrate right here. Like some guys, right now we're doing 2 different rails, mainly because the supply is always, it's the one thing I don't make a lot of stuff, right? My heat sink system and some gas blocks that I have made locally here in Idaho because they're my designs, and I have shops that make those for me. Mm-hmm. A lot of the other stuff I work with suppliers to get it. That's how this works. KK Industries, great company. They make good stuff, and they work amazing with small companies. You can call them up and be like, hey, I need to source upper receivers and upper receiver parts. And they're like, cool, here you go. And they treat you like a big dog business, and you get a good price on those. And for me, I get them, and then I bring them in, I inspect them, and I put them on a lathe, and I lap the faces of them, and then we mark them, and that helps lock up. A lot of people think it's like a big accuracy thing. Yes, it helps with potential accuracy, but for me, it's still, again, we're looking at that longevity, lifespan of the weapon. If the lugs are perfectly parallel on the extension and perfectly parallel on the bolt too, you have nice, even, clean lug wear. The bolt lasts longer. So that's why I do that. So, I still build stuff to a gunsmith standard here, but we still have to I don't have a CNC machine here making me, taking forgings and making them into upper receiver groups. Like, I couldn't do that cost effective enough, to make sense, right? Yeah. Well, I don't want a big ass shop, to be honest with you. I'm not, I'd rather be able to have stuff design, you continue to do design and push forth in assembly and whatnot. And just have really good and employ other good Americans that are just like badass machinists and let them do their job. Like that also helps the economy greatly.
Yep, no.
If or otherwise you have all the headaches of having your own machine shop, and places that have machine shops though that are like in like gun companies that do a lot of like in-house stuff are typically guys that have really exotic stuff. So like piston companies usually are kind of like big in-house brands.
Right.
They can't always source stuff from places because they're so proprietary. I didn't want to be proprietary. Like our barrels, without the heatsink system on them, they're not real. It's not a proprietary barrel. It can go on any gun.
Mm-hmm.
My heatsink system, it's just held to a different tolerance so that if I want to slip my heatsinks on here, they go on very easily.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like, I didn't want to design a gas system, but I knew that we needed an adjustable gas system for the Rec LMGs because I wanted them to adapt to suppressors, but also ammunition and environment that you're in. And I tested tons of adjustable gas blocks, like so many adjustable gas blocks. I broke every one of them in round counts that would be pathetic to most people. And the one I didn't break was Rifle Speed. And so that's when I started working with Rifle Speed, which is a small company. And I love Kyle. Kyle's a great dude. That guy makes an amazing gas block. And I was probably one of the very few first guys that was like, I want to OEM these on my gun. Like I want them to be on everything I make. And Kyle's been great to me. And that's another integral part of the design and the execution of the auto rifle upper was putting on like a gas block that can adapt to anything. Which also, the plunger changes out in sizing, so you can adapt it to like different weather conditions, different elevations, ammunition types, but also as things naturally progress in a barrel, you get port erosion. The gas port's going to erode over time and open up. Well, if you have a fixed gas port, you're going to have just now more gas coming through the gun. But if your gas block is able to adjust and or change plungers to cut even more gas off, as that plunger or as the gas port is eroded, you're still in perfect operating window because you're able to adjust it on that gun as it wears and works through the system. So there's just a lot of advantages to having rifle speed attached to a gun. So nothing I do that I have else outside of that is really proprietary. Our heatsink coil that goes over the gas tube is kind of proprietary. I don't sell that to anybody. I make those by hand, and I hand fit the copper nickel heatsink that goes over the gas tube, so the gas tube also doesn't blow up.
Yeah.
As easy as it would if it did not have it. Of course, yes. If you golden web the shit out of the front end of this gun, eventually you're going to probably blow up the gas tube, which hopefully here in another month or two you'll be doing on camera for everybody to watch. But
Safely.
But yeah, that was one thing when he started doing those videos. It's like, bro, you need to be behind something, because when guns blow up, I've watched many guns explode as a gunsmith and being in the industry, and it's not nothing that to be taken lightly, But yeah, so.
Yeah, I just had a pistol last week blow up in my hand.
Which one?
I'm not going to say which one, but I sent the video to you at the IDPA match.
Oh yeah, that thing.
Yeah. No, it wasn't a SIG. It didn't blow up. It basically just blew the optic off of the slide, and then did something internally so that the slide will not go into battery now. So I think ultimately I watched the video over and over and over again. It shot the first round just fine, and the second round is when it all went to crap, and I think it was just an overcharged round, I think is ultimately what it was. But
no. Or not a budget gun
it's not a budget gun. That's not a budget gun.
Oh, it's not the budget.
No,
it's that one. Okay,
it's not a budget gun.
Oh boy.
So yeah, but anyway, so one of the things, Cody, that you and I had talked about is earlier this week, he had sent me some Instagram DMs, just talking to me about some feedback on the video I just did on an bufferless AR rifle. And you had some comments that I thought were actually pretty insightful. Obviously, I love getting feedback on my videos, but one of the things that really kind of resonated through our conversation was the fact that, ultimately there are different design changes that we've done for the AR-15 over the years to try to quote unquote advance the rifle into the 21st century and so on and so forth. And from your perspective, you correct me if I'm wrong, but you kind of feel that we end up coming back to the beginning because the design, as you've said already in this podcast, is the design is so, dare I say, flawless, that we really don't need to do anything other than what was basically already done, whether that be the standard 20-inch, either A1 or A2, or, even kind of shortening the barrel just a bit down to like 16. What's your perspective? You ultimately said you're like, oh, well, excuse me, I'm a bit of a AR purist. And I guess the reason, I guess that's kind of what I'm asking is why is that? Why are you more of an AR purist instead of this is the direction that we need to go to advance it, I guess?
Yeah. It's a timeless design. It really is. It was extremely well thought out, and I don't think the ramifications of how forward thinking it was really kind of started to dawn on people when, like, after the whole piston wave,
Right.
like everybody kind of was like, maybe the DI gun's not so bad. Yeah, no, the DI gun's fucking great. Like, you don't have to, it also comes from, like, I love capitalism. Capitalism, yay. I want to live in a capitalist Christian society. That's what I'm all about. So, I mean, everybody wants to get into the game, and then you got to stand out. The AR market is extremely full of people, right? Everybody, name a company that probably doesn't make an AR-15. And
Kimber.
even Kimber. I was actually going to say Kimber. But almost everybody at one point or the other in the firearm space comes out with an AR-15. Even Glocks come out with an AR-15.
Yeah, exactly. I was getting ready to say that. Yeah.
Oh, good.
So
we actually need to buy some ARs soon.
Yeah, I'm pretty. Last I checked, I think it was made by Heinkel or whatever their name is, Heinkel. It's like off topic there. It's you have to, you want to stick out, right? So like people start like, well, how do I step out of the space so I look unique and special and people want to buy my shit? So let's take this obscure piston off of this other rifle that completely was a market fucking failure. Ignore the reason why it was a fucking failure, and then slap it on an AR-15 and let's fucking roll with it. Oh, wait, that just started like 8 other effing problems on this gun now. Oh, well, we got to redesign a bunch of stuff. Well, we've already kind of dropped this cool new idea. We started making them, and now problems are now occurring, but we've already been selling them. Shit, we got to come out with a new generation of one with, we got to fix this now on it, and then say it's it's an upgrade from the original M4. Everything that drives me nuts about everybody that's trying to make something that's an AR adjacent platform and go out of their way to compare it to a standard AR-15 direct impingement rifle as we all know it, as they try to say there's objectively better reason, better parts on it. It's like, no, the reason why you found that problem was because you did XYZ to it, and you stepped away from the perfect, what would you say, the perfect recipe, right? The recipe to make
every day we get further from God's grace. That's
it wasn't so bad for the spicy cinnamon cookie or some shit, but then they're like, let's throw in something, and it's like the dumbest ingredient that doesn't make any sense. Like, let's chunk limes or something into it. Wow, it turned out good. Well, duh. Like, like it's. I feel there's a lot of that in the industry where they're like they step away from it to be special. In the end, it's not objectively better of a system. It's just not, and its longevity, it doesn't take off, and it becomes an obscure dead end tree of like evolution tree. M4 has been adapted to so many things, so many ways. But think about it, there's also a lot of dead ends on that. If the HK416 was so damn good, why are they on like the 7th generation fucking 416s? Chasing all the problems that they've been having on the 416 since the beginning.
That's because all the LARPers need to flex on the flat range. Come on now, we all know that.
Yeah. Well, they're like, we're going to make a piston system and make it self-adjust. Oh wow, that actually doesn't work. The gun, now you put a suppressor on it, it shoots 1,400 rounds a minute now, basically. You're like, oh well, you guys didn't want to put an adjustable gas plug on. Like, oh, okay, we're going to make an adjustable gas plug, but we're just going to put normal operation and adverse settings on it. It's still not adapted to the damn suppressor. You're like, dude, guys, like, I don't know. There's a lot of things like that with designs out there. You don't have those problems. You don't have many problems with the standard system until you start. We need the stock to fold. Oh, let's just chop the buffer off. Oh, well, we're going to stick it in the upper. Well, now the upper's got to be proprietary. Now we got a proprietary this, and before you know it, you got a KWU Day 1 copy parading as an AR-15 when it's it's got the controls, but it is no AR-15. And in my opinion, it's an unfair thing to compare it to, right? Again, you're not going to compare your Toyota Corolla to a car built to do the Le Mans and say it's the same thing. It's like, well, yeah, they got tires. It's about the only common thing, and the tires don't even match, so.
Yeah,
I think there's just a lot of I don't know. I think it comes down to marketing, Liz, and people trying to be special. But the original design is still so timeless that everybody knows that's why it's just good.
Right.
So, like, are there any kind of I guess modern updates to the AR platform, like the original M16 that have been a net benefit, like going from a 1 in 12 to like 1 in 7?
Yeah. There's been plenty of net benefits to match the ammunition technology that's grown. There's been net benefits for material choices. The big thing that holds back all gun design right now is materials. Until we start getting materials that can take higher PSIs and better temperatures and more stresses than what we currently have, that are still machinable or producible. The firearms technology is kind of in the stagnant spot until we can either push a projectile even harder than we currently are, or we have but then have the ability to actually like contain that explosion and all that pressure and give it a service life. Like I always say here, I harp on service life. You can make anything do something good a few times, but it takes a lot to make something do it all the time. And until we have like fucking unobtainium metals or some shit that you can make a barrel out of that allow us to push the PSIs to like 100,000 PSI without blowing the gun up and then shoot projectiles at even faster, harder speeds. Technology is kind of at a stagnant point. You see all the PRS market and everybody went from like everything's got to be 30 cal bullets because of my NATO and old school thinking. Everybody's kind of gone back to like 6mm bullets just because they know the BC is better. Been around a long time, right? And now they're like everybody's making a 6mm something cartridge because of its capability, but but that's still like that's old technology. You can only play with that so much without having a huge leap forward in materials. And right now we just don't have it. So to really truly be innovative, it's going to take a bunch of other stuff catching up. But the M4 platform in its general, though, yeah, it's able to keep up with the times. And when I say a 1970s M16 is like, if you put it next to a modern day version of it, if you built it with all the modern day technology and stuff, it will still run circles around it, but the core design's still there. The 20-inch with the barrel, the materials are better that we're building stuff out of. The coatings are better. The crane program was the best thing for the M4. It needed to happen, and it happened in a good way. And all the the donut and the spring upgrades, the extractors, and all that stuff needed to happen. Having all that stuff now, you have even a better rifle than you did before, but you still have the same recipe. It's just better ingredients, right?
Mm-hmm. Better pizza.
Better pizza. Papa John's. So that's how I see that.
Well, you mentioned the concept of trying to propel a bullet faster. So how does like the 6.8 by 51 Fury fall into that, where they're now utilizing a bimetal case to create these massive pressures for the XM5 and create a pretty hefty bullet to velocities that are matching much lighter bullets. How do you think that is benefiting or hurting advancements?
I have a huge problem with the
I think you stepped too far away from the mic.
Walking around the shop talking. So the what's it called? The XM. Are they calling it the X7 now or whatever?
Or
XM8 or
yeah.
I keep thinking XM8, but that's a different program.
Last I knew, it was still the XM5, but they may have updated it with something.
Okay, well, this SIG rifle has I don't like it. I don't like the whole concept. That rifle would have been great for America in like 2003 when we were in Afghanistan. Like that made sense. The 6.8 cartridge are using the shell shock technology, which I think is a great idea. I don't know if they really fleshed it all the way out. Because it's like it is still two pieces, right? So you still have the ability to separate said two pieces. It's kind of like that keep it simple stupid thing. The problem about that round though is whether they want to admit it or not, that's a barrel burning death machine and it's eating barrels alive. And okay, cool. If you got the super badass ammunition that also costs $13 a round to shoot, it's just a logistical nightmare, and I don't think it objectively makes any sense because they just made a bullet go really fast, but then again, the material in the barrel, even with everything they can do with barrels right now, still chews the barrel up in like 10,000 rounds. So, again, it's going to come down to having some new type of barrel steel that can keep up with bigger, faster bullets. So it's like they put the cart ahead of the horse on that one, in my opinion, right? They could have kept a familiar cartridge, maybe improve the bullet design, which there's a lot of bullet designs for 5.56 out there that makes 5.56 do absolutely crazy things. I'm sure a bunch of it's probably classified, but I mean, at the end of the day, like there's so much you can still do with the current stuff, but those are still going to be limited by the barrel steel, for example.
Yeah,
So,
well, I bet if they just would have chrome lined the barrel, they would have been able to.
Yeah, right. Chrome lining the barrel. I mean, it probably would have lasted a little bit longer, but the pressure probably would crush the chrome.
That's a good point. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think about it, if you were to crack the chrome and then put it under that intense amount of PSI, you'd break it. The United States government has been really pushing to put more barrels to be nitride, because it's a better finish. Because the chrome does have those type of problems, So it's, again, we're kind of playing with this, until we have something that's going to put us leaps and bounds forward, we're going to be kind of trapped with that, reality, I think.
Well, I feel like it is the U.S. government. They can't figure out what they want at all. I can't. I'm at about 17 years in myself, and like the amount of times I've seen just the M4 platform, how much I've seen the M4 platform change in the 17 years is just ridiculous. I remember when I first got in, they were like, we had full auto M4s, but then they're getting rid of them because full auto wasn't the safe thing. And then like 5 years down the road, we had to retrofit all these M4s back to being full auto. And it's like, it just seemed like
because the full auto trigger is simpler, and just be disciplined with it. And then you don't have to worry about all the issues that they had with the burst trigger. I mean, the government's always going to fuck up anything. You can give them the best thing ever, and they'll still screw it up.
Except for the Bradley, that thing was just an abortion when it first started.
And that's the government complex of everybody knows everybody, and I think there's a lot of that going on with, in my opinion, with the SIG program stuff.
But hold on a second. The Bradley has like how many freaking Russian tank kills right now?
How many times? I guess how many Bradleys have fallen to Russian tanks too?
I don't know.
Yeah, there's that too.
But yeah, it's that I'm still a little bitter about the whole SIG contract. It's definitely one of those. Somebody at SIG knew somebody at the DoD. And it wouldn't surprise me if some
just look at who their staff was at the time when they hired them.
Yeah, that's good.
I think it'll bite SIG in the ass, and I don't see that rifle ever getting issued in mass. And a lot of people will get all over my ass. Oh, it's gonna be issued. I'm like, you know what? They said that about the SCAR program too.
Yeah,
that didn't fucking happen.
Here's my conspiracy theory is that SIG intentionally like jammed the XM5 down the Army's throat and convinced the Army, hey, this is what you really need to defeat like pure body armor. And now the Army's like, okay, yeah, let's totally do that. And now they're like, this wasn't such a great idea. And now SIG's going to be like, well, funny you should bring that up, because we now have a 5.56 version that you can swap like right in place, and you don't have to worry about lowering the ammo that an infantry guy would carry now because of the larger cartridge. You can go back to 5.56. It's already, NATO spec approved and all that type of stuff. So they can just, kind of do a shell game where they just swap out the XM5 for the what is it called? The Spear LT,
Yeah.
Which is basically the same rifle.
Then you can have the grunts hop out of their Humvees or whatever and smack their barrel.
JLTVs, we got rid of the Humvees.
Oh, there you go.
We already got rid of those, and my God, was that a mistake?
I know, right?
Yeah. Just without going on too much of a tirade, just got back from a training rotation where we were the only ones brought our JLTVs because we were told to bring them. And everyone else had Humvees, and the only people that could fix it were two guys from Oshkosh that were in Texas. So they had to drive, I think, 8 or 10 hours just to come fix our JLTVs. And they look around and they're like, "Yeah, if this entire brigade brought those JLTVs, this entire thing would just implode on itself." So, and the XM5, it's hard to just fathom that the United States military would go away from a NATO standard round when the entire
NATO. We've always been yelling at NATO to listen to us about following the rules.
Yep.
And, I don't know. Of course, yeah. If they're like, yeah, we'll just go to we'll go to the 5.56. All right, cool. The LT Spear does not objectively do anything better than an M4.
The buttstock folds.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's super.
You have a grunt hop out of the JLTV and he hits the muzzle of that barrel and then shifts the barrel 6 inches over, and then his fucking point of aim, point of impact is completely gone because the barrel's fucking flexing that shitty ass receiver.
So I want to bring up
how many videos have you seen them people shifting those around? Like, yeah, I guarantee you the government ones won't be any better. Like, you know, you can do that to an M4 though, and guess what? It still works.
I'm going to formally apologize to some random guy on the internet back in probably like this would have been 2004 or 5. When the XM8 program, because you brought it up, and we're talking about XM programs now. When the XM8 came out from H&K, and I thought it was going to be the bee's knees.
Yep.
My 12-year-old self, like, I know exactly what I'm talking about. And I remember getting on an argument on a forum with a guy, and I said it's objectively better rifle because 1, the stock folds, and 2, which it did, by the way, which did.
It's got the fucking built-in sight,
built-in red
calibers.
dot.
Yeah. You can swap the rails. Arlie Ermy told me it's fucking amazing on mail call. I have to fucking have this thing. It's the greatest thing ever. Like, it's HK, right? They can't make anything wrong. And then, you know, my dream of that, I remember that because I was, I think, fucking 11 when that came out, or 12. Yeah, it was like right around like what 2000, 2003. So maybe 13 years old, and I was like, dude, the XM8 is fucking badass. Like, you know, you're fucking 13 years old, right? You're playing Ghost Recon using the XM8, and then, you know, my cousin, who's first Ranger bat, you know, comes back and I get to visit and see him for the first time in a blue moon. And I'm like, I think the XM8's awesome. He goes, yeah, no, it's a fucking pile of shit, bro. You're like,
whoa,
what?
Whoa,
What? And he goes, yeah, they gave a bunch of us those guns to use, and we broke all of them. I was like, what do you mean? It's so much better than 40. He goes, nah, dude, fucking Block 2, dude. And he's like, that's the future. You have no idea what that even is yet. And I'm like, what? And then, yeah, the Block 2 program, like, comes out with the, you know, the free-floated fucking Riz rail, and that's objectively the best M4 the military has currently. The only way you can make that better is make it in a mid-length gas system, in my opinion. But outside of that, that's a perfect gun. You know, like But yeah, 13 thinking the XM8 was cool. That's how I got it crushed.
I mean, I still think it's cool. Like, is the spiritual successor to the G36 that. So when I was growing up, my dad was military, so we lived overseas, and I remember living in Germany and seeing all the German gate guards have G36s, and just like I was playing this game. It was a Half-Life mod called Firearms. I don't know if anybody here even knows what I'm talking about. It's like
I know the game Half-Life. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, it was a mod for it called Firearms, and it was kind of like a weird Team Fortress meets Counter-Strike game. And they had a G30. You could play with a G36, and I remember that was like the bee's knees. And then going and seeing like real German Bundeswehr soldiers carrying them. And then when the XM8 came out, it's just like, I get to live this dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was just a G36 with a different skin on it.
Yeah.
It was
it unlocked a new skin. When I was going through Ordnance Officer Basic, we were at the Aberdeen Proving Grounds, and one of the things that we had to do was, or didn't have to do, but one of the things they did for us is like a behind the scenes tour of the Ordnance Museum, which had some really cool things, like an actual Luger chambered in 45 ACP that was presented for
I would love that.
The 1911 freaking trials, you know. But in the back, they had every single firearm that has ever gone through any of the military trials for the past 100+ years, and one of them was the XM8. And I was like, holy crap. And I picked it up and I was looking at it and I was like, this is a piece of shit. I was like, oh my goodness, this. It just felt like it felt really plasticky. It didn't feel like it was assembled correctly. You know, it was. Just,
and this comes from a guy that has a jackal in his closet right now.
I do not.
Oh, you got rid of it?
I do not. I had to send it back.
Oh, okay.
Womp, womp.
Womp, womp.
But I do have a monolith.
You have a monolith and you have a scar. So you have both of them, don't you? Just one.
What's that?
You have a scar heavy or scar light or both?
The 17.
Okay.
Yeah. the true the true scar,
The Lord's Scar.
the Lord scar. Yeah.
So
But anyway, yeah, the XM was pretty cool. The one you brought up, Ghost Recon, and circa 2004, I think is when Ghost Recon really started hitting. They had a firearm. It was like the IW or the OWIC
Yeah,
or something.
mhm.
yeah. So it was a 20 millimeter programmable grenade launcher with essentially the grenade launcher was the main body, and then they just put essentially a G36 on the front of it.
Yeah.
Underslung it. My cousin also played with those.
Yeah. I thought it was I thought it was really cool, but
it's a piece of shit. The grenade launcher's badass. Yeah, and of course, then of course, leave it to some fucking lawyer to ruin everything, because then they were like, hey, technically you can program this, and if you get your distances right, you technically can lodge the grenade in a human being as it blows up. Like, it gets just inside of them and then blows up, which i.e. is a total fucking war crime. And therefore that's why you don't see those anymore.
Well, I mean, it's not the first time.
Oh no. Well, we got away with it for a little bit, but eventually they came out and were like, yo, you guys can't.
You can't do that on purpose. You can't do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, the design team was like, no, you make it blow up above them, or next to them, or in front of them, and they get frag, but like, put it in the hands of a fucking badass Army Ranger or Marine, and they're like, I bet you I can launch this that dude over there, and there you go. You get some lawyer who gets upset about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that was like I feel like the early 2000s was kind of just like a generation of these guys are just making the most random shit in the world.
Oh no, it's not even, that doesn't compare to nothing like the guys in the 80s.
Oh,
okay.
I mean, they had cocaine. I mean, that's
they had cocaine, and they had never ending fucking Cold War money, bro. Like, I mean, America flew B-20 or B-29 stealth bombers or strategic bombers or B-2 bombers or whatever the hell, nonstop around the entire fucking like Western Hemisphere for like 30 straight fucking years, bro. Like, that's how much money we were spending on the Cold War. Like, the shit that they came up with during the Cold War time doesn't even come close to like the GWAT era shit. And the GWAT stuff's wild.
I mean, the G11 is probably like the only one that comes straight to mind of like this off the wall shit that came out from the Cold War area.
You gotta like, so there's you guys watch Fat Electrician at all?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love
no, okay.
Fat Electrician. I love Nick's videos because he's a like a history buff nerd, and as a guy who pays attention to, I love history. I'm a huge history guy, but also I work in guns every day, so it's nice to turn on something that's not necessarily related to guns and watch that. Like, I enjoy that too, because I get kind of jaded about the gun industry because I see it all the time. I'm like, oh, cool. Daniel's Defense bought the H9. It's still a pile of shit. I'm not impressed. But
no.
No. So like, I like to watch fun stuff, and history is fun. But like, Nick did a really good video on like the SPEW program. The SPEW program was extremely fucking wild. It was like, how do we shoot people with more than one projectile at the same time? and so like, you had like guys doing like the G11 program was like, how do we make it with like caseless fucking bullets? And, let's make duplex rounds where we basically just, let's stick 2 5.56 in the same cartridge and see if we can shoot them down the barrel. Like, it was, and out of all that program, you had all sorts of different crazy gun designs that were shooting like flechettes and like fucking like thin nails at people, and a bunch of shit that probably be a war crime. But, in the end, what we got out of that program was the LCAN and the the ACOG.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
Those programs birthed the optics, because they were like, wait, we just put that on an M16 and look at how effective it is all of a sudden. No one thought, we need a better gun than the M16. No one thought to bolt a fucking scope on it at the time. and then they do all these trials with all these random guns and realize the optics are really cool. Why don't we just stick them on an M4 or an M16 at the time? And holy shit, the M16 is way more effective suddenly. Like, again, the M4 will continue to reign because I mean the next thing for the evolution for it within the military is obviously we're not going to go to that SIG gun. In my opinion, that SIG gun's going to die, and it's going to be adopted like the SCAR Heavy was, right? Specialized units, DMR role. That makes sense. The machine gun, I don't know. That can go either way. I don't see it replacing the 240 though. The 240 is just again too timeless. But we'll just probably see them go, hey, the optic, which I'm hearing is being kind of an issue, depending on what source you read. But the optic ideology is there. If they were able to make a version of an ACOG that would have some kind of ranging capabilities in it or whatever, and they could put that on a fucking free floated AR upper receiver that they basically just swap all the M4s in use with, you keep all the other parts commonality, you keep the giant supply chain going, you're still using 5.56. I mean, I don't think objectively any of our enemies that are dead in the ground would complain that they should have been shot with a better bullet.
Well, it's that the weird thing that with the Mark V program is that the whole idea was to start defeating near peers that have ceramic armor where there's no near peers.
The only people that it's what fucking NATO and fucking U.S. civilians that have that type of armor. So why do you need that capability all of a sudden? And
then all of a sudden there's a new memorandum and there's a new directive from the DoD that says that they can
drone strike people.
Yeah, they can start shooting at U.S. civilians on.
But Trump's Hitler, so he wants unlimited power. That's what he wants that for. They're like, bro, you guys are in office signing that. How the fuck is that Trump's problem?
But then it's what you've been talking about. It's like we designed this whole thing, and then we're like, well, why don't we just use a 20-inch AR because it goes through most armor pretty quickly.
It really does, And I guarantee you, there's some bullets out there that would fucking blow your mind. Again, they're with materials that probably the Geneva Convention, at least U.S. state law says you can't use. There's ways to keep the 5.56 completely relevant. I don't foresee 5.56 going anywhere.
No,
we are. The thing is, the military industrial complex spent so long trying to just capitalize on one thing so much to where they can make it so cheap and make it the United States government so dependent on it, and then NATO so dependent on it. They've gotten to the point where they basically own the market, and then now they're like, well, shit, we're not really making much of money anymore. We need to do something new. Fuck, we can't actually beat the original thing that we did.
Yep.
I don't know. There's going to be like a 73 grain, some sort of
depleted
bullet.
Uranium.
Just more
that probably exists. I mean, we use depleted uranium in the Bushmasters that are on the Bradleys. I mean, so I mean, you could put it in an AR-15. You're just going to poison everybody that shoots it, but
that's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
and the burn pits weren't enough.
Yeah, the burn pits weren't. There was I met one of the what was that? It's a Bradley commander. He wrote a book. The book was called Carnivore. Did you ever read that book? I can't remember.
Can't say I have.
Oh man, it's a wicked book. I'll have to find the link and send it to you. It's about the invasion of Iraq, and he was they were essentially credited with killing 2,700 people with their Bradley. they absolutely shit wrecked a lot of Iraqis with it. But they shot so much depleted uranium. The guy was, battling cancer his whole life. He wrote the memoir. He fought off the cancer, and of course, the government's like, well, you're supposed to wear your mop suit when you shoot uranium through your Bushmaster because it's going down the bore and you're still getting flakes of it and it comes back through the action, fills up the tank, or the Bradley or whatever.
And that stuff just doesn't go away. That's not a.
Yeah, it does. It's heavy metal. It don't go anywhere. I remember when we were working on them in Kuwait, we're like, oh, cool, we're getting our fucking depleted uranium fucking numbers up today. They're like, you're gonna wear a fucking mop suit. It's 140 fucking degrees outside. No, we're gonna fix this and just hope I don't die soon.
Yep.
So I mean, there's a lot of the health aspects though. You don't want to. You can make a badass round for an M4, but if everybody's getting fucking cancer from shooting it, kind of defeated the whole purpose. So I don't know. I still believe though. No, 100 years from now, we'll still be using the M4 platform. The linear gas system will remain undefeated.
Unless
we're
doing like, unless we're using like direct energy weapons or something like that.
I mean, that's really direct energy weapons would be the next thing, right?
But then someone's just going to slap like a M4 shell over a laser cannon. It's like, okay, there we go.
It will be AR adjacent with AR controls. I promise you that.
Yeah. Man, that sounds oddly familiar.
Yeah. It's what is it? What is it? The most serious form of flattery is copying, or whatever it is.
Right.
I can't remember exactly.
Plagiarism is the most serious form of flattery, or that.
I think everybody's correct at this point.
Right.
First time today. So
you've been getting into it with your wife?
No. I spent all day on the range coaching today, and a lot of the people are like, well, I know better, so I'm not going to do what you're telling me. Okay, well, do what you want. That's fine.
So here's a good question for you then. Knowing how the average private and whatnot is in the military, do you think they need the SIG rifle over an M4?
What
is it wasted on them?
Yeah, what the military in general needs for this the normal soldier is, we don't need a brand new system. We just need the system that we were supposed to be getting and make it work. I know a lot of guys that the biggest headache I always see in the military world, at least, is that you'll get issued a rifle. It's not the same rifle you got last time for some stupid reason. Most of them, there's some active duty units that still have iron sights only on their guns. No red dots, no ACOGs, no form of LVPOs, and you can't use your own optic because, God forbid, you show up with like a Simmons 3x9 on your AR fucking rifle. And then so the M68s are still kind of there. We're like at 90%, but we're not 100%. And then PEX boxes or D balls, whatever you're issued, also those sit in an armory box and no one even touches them or looks at them.
Let alone knows how to zero them.
Let alone a zero, or where even they did. I remember, and granted, I'm going to speak on behalf of. I was active for a couple of years, and then I switched to the reserves. The reserves, they keep that in a locked box. And I remember one day opening, like, oh, these are where all our laser systems are, and I had about 8 or 10 people look at me like, what are you talking about? Like, we don't know what this is for. It says laser module, so we thought it was like for dry fire training or like getting ready for your. It's like, God, okay, you guys are the worst.
Yeah.
So I think the XM5 will definitely be wasted on a lot of people. We barely qualify with a light intermediate cartridge M4. Even if you put an ACOG on a lot of this stuff, I think the money is better spent on getting soldiers out to training more and getting them out into the field instead of just. There's some units are really good about it, but the bulk of even active duty Army, it's like you go to the range once a quarter, maybe twice a year, and you somewhat qualify, and then you go about your merry life, and then get out of the Army and say you're a certified badass, and you can teach Rifle 1 and Rifle 2.
Yeah, I can tell you that the last range that I was the OIC for, I think we had a success rate of first time qualifiers at like something like 65%, which is better than 50%, sure, but when you think of the military, you think, oh, these guys, they know how to shoot, because that's all they ever do. And just as Jefe was saying, it's like maybe once a quarter, maybe twice a year, and you will get some bullshit BRM class right before, with your, sight picture, sight alignment, trigger squeeze, breathing control, and here's some dime drills that we're going to do.
Well, first, you'll get some like E5 or E6. Give a PowerPoint presentation for like an hour and a half about the nomenclature of all parts of the weapon, and then show you how to disassemble it and clean it a bunch of times, and then say, okay, well, you're ready for the range.
Yep, exactly.
So,
and then we had the EST 2000 that we would, at least my unit you had to go through the EST.
that's a thing now you have to go through. Like Electronic Skill Trainer 2000.
Yep.
It's pretty much a big duck hunt game.
Yep.
That uses air compressed rifles to
simulate recoil,
and
Mhm.
it's when it
I
works.
thought
It's
that was
great.
just a recruiting tool, man.
No,
yeah,
we have them. We actually had a mobile one show up to our unit. This
nice.
is just like a little Pelican box some guy opened up and it's ready to go. But
It was helpful. For especially for some of the individuals that didn't feel very confident about shooting,
Mhm.
I could tell that it helped them. They just still didn't qualify, but then once you failed your first qualification, you have to go back to the EST, practice again, come back, shoot again. And I also understand that the military, the Army especially, they invested into these facilities for the EST 2000 to save money on ammunition. Especially in a time when all the ammunition is going towards the war fight in Iraq and Afghanistan at that time. But now, even still, we have the ability to train soldiers, train them well, train them regularly. But you take a normal non-infantry type soldier to the range, and it's a flip of the coin whether or not they're going to qualify first time.
Yeah, and I think spending more money on training and training aids, like my biggest example, like that I use for dry firing and sort of training aids is we had like a handgun range a couple months back, and I have one of those virtual shot skill trainers from Virtual Shot. They sent it out for me to try out, and I put a bunch of our soldiers that had a hard time with handguns through it like 3 or 4 times, and then most of them were first time goes and felt more comfortable with it. So the XM5 is going to be a complete to circle back. XM5 spending billions and billions of taxpayer dollars on a rifle that is specifically designed to defeat stuff that U.S. citizens and their allies have, compared to just making a more fleshed out, better trained force overall is just mind boggling to me. Yeah. But I don't make decisions. I just bitch about them online.
The money would absolutely be better put towards training, like actually standing up. Not that I'm not going to say, I'm not saying anything negative towards soldiers or anything like that, but
let's do it, dude.
The idea is it's kind of like you get like, you're getting some people that are there just so they can go get the basic minimums they need so they can go to college, right? They're not there to like be like the best soldier they possibly can. So it's like they do the minimum. Same thing with cops too. And like, not talking bad about law enforcement, but there's some cops that legitimately they only want to do the minimum training and then move on with their deal because they're not interested in it. Mm-hmm. If you have a bunch of people that are highly, highly motivated to learn and train, you get the Marine Corps, right? So you get everybody that's having all that, like they're really investing that time into it, and they're very, very proficient. The Army's too big. Like the Army is way too big. You got admin units, supply units, and everything like that. And like you said, you guys got guys that are still shooting iron sights, and it's 2024. Like that's fucking whack. Like. Yeah. Why hasn't we've paid for all these advancements and yet that hasn't been fully fleshed out because somebody somewhere hasn't bothered to fill out the correct paperwork or something stupid and just have it all implemented and all the training standards brought to the same level. Yeah. I think that's if you spent the time to actually do that and get everybody to be like, hey man, you're here. You got to be serious about this. Everybody needs to be at a minimum level. For this type of job, you all have to be able to do basic this. And if you can't do this, it's like any other job, right? Like you're not going to move forward until you've completed that. And you should keep on top of it. I think, the fitness standards of the military too have also fallen by the wayside. And you have it all varying all over the place. It's like, if they spent the time to really dial everything in versus spending all the money on a development of a weapon platform that realistically they're not going to give to everybody.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'd like to see everybody be able to get the training they need. That makes the most sense. Like, be the best that they could possibly be, and they deserve that. They deserve that. They deserve that investment from the United States government and our military. And then we would like to see everybody put forth the best effort they can.
Yeah.
So every soldier should be carrying a Red Right Hand IAR on there.
Well,
no, I don't think that. No, I'm not going to sit here and say that everybody needs to have my shit. That's not how this works. I want everybody to have a good, well built M4 that's not fucking hodgepodge with a million government parts where they got too many things worn out on it. They don't have an optic. No, they shouldn't. Everybody in the United States government that serves in the military should have a quality weapon with all the force multipliers that make America great. We're a night fighting force. Everybody should be trained how to use their night vision and shoot under night vision. They should have a zeroed laser and a zeroed optic and be proficient with it.
You would think
no, but that's not the case. So like,
it's not,
how did you get to that level? Because like, we've already invested all that time in there, and there's guys there that definitely need that training. Like, fucking give it to them.
Well, when I deployed to Afghanistan in 2010, I deployed with the 101st Airborne, and you would think that the 101st Airborne, much like the 82nd Airborne, would have all of the cool guy gear, but I went to the arms room to pick up my rifle to deploy, and they handed me an M16A2 with an M68 on a gooseneck mount and night armament rail, handguard, night armament.
Better than my first issue.
I know, right? But they handed that to me, and I'm just like, what the hell is this thing? Why am I carrying a musket?
All my bros are 82nd bros, and they all have cool shit. So
I know, right?
It sounds like the 101st is they're getting screwed.
Well, I will say that I was in a sustainment unit, so I'm kind of the second tier. I'm definitely not on the front lines for sure, but now when I think back to it, if I had to choose between an M4 with like a ACOG and a PEC 15 and all of that type of stuff, sure, that's cool, but I think I still would want that M16A2 with that gooseneck mount. I just, that's what I grew up on.
M16A4 with just a proper.
Yeah, I learned how to shoot a rifle with the M16, and at the end of the day, I think, and that's why I ended up doing a kind of my Afghan build with the H&R.
Air quotes, by the way.
What's that?
He did air quotes right there, by the way.
Well, because I don't have access to an M68 and the proper mount, so it's not exact, right? And
there's a base right next down the road. We can get you one.
You think so? Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
We
do not condone stealing from the federal government on this podcast. We are talking about theoretical things that happen in Minecraft.
Yes, exactly.
Strategically transporting to an alternate location.
Right on. Well, Cody, we are kind of getting to that point where we're going to start closing this down, but we wanted to make sure that you got plenty of time to talk about, where people can find you. What are some of the things that you got coming up? If you have any type of like new releases or anything like that, or things that you want to specifically talk about when it comes to Red Right Hand, we wanted to give you this time to kind of dive into that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. You can find us on Instagram at Red Right Hand LLC. Just remember to put the LLC on there, because there's a million other people that just have Red Right Hand stuff.
Right.
But Red Right Hand LLC is me. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube. I'm not on Facebook, but we do have Facebook. And of course, Red Right Hand on X, Twitter, or whatever you want to call it these days. Instagram, I'm most on, right?
Right.
But you can look up our products on YouTube, like type in Recce LMG, and you'll find all sorts of stuff from some excellent Blue Gene Operator, print sheet repeat, administrative results, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A couple guys have done that. We got more content coming out from Agent Expo, and then desktops coming down the line. Shout out to my buddy Patriot Considerations. He's also going to be doing some stuff on it. Hopefully, nice. Fit and Fire.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, at one point. Other than that, yeah, right now it's a weird year. Obviously, it's election season, so my big thing is everybody get out and go vote. Stop
for Kamala.
It's opposite day. Vote for Kamala. Yeah, no.
I would say text to vote, but that guy went to prison. So
yeah, no. But get out and vote. I mean, right now it's a pretty crazy time. I'm kind of right now as a small company batting down the hatches, depending on how we're doing that. I'm stockpiling my most popular stuff. That way, in case there's a shortage, we can maintain our lead time. Most of my products are 4 to 8 week lead time. Realistically, right now we're like a couple products are like going out pretty quick. I'm a one-man operation here, so I have to build it. You know, like if you order a custom gun, we have to get some of the custom parts in. That just takes longer. So, but you will get it in a reasonable time frame. So, you know, depending on how the election goes, we'll see. You know, everything pans out. You know, hopefully, we're doing good. I think we're gonna win. Like at least my opinion.
Yeah.
So. Other than that, yeah, no, we're nothing really crazy new. SHOT Show will be different for us though this year. You might see us in some places. You might see us doing business with some people's. Won't really dive into that, but you know, there'll always be updates. Of course, I never settle. Obviously, the designs are always getting played with. I think the IAR, the 16-inch and 14.5-inch stuff. Is going to be probably more prevalent next year. You're going to see me kind of break more into that now that we kind of got the supply chain and the product support kind of all squared around the 20-inch upper receivers we build. Like that's all dialed in now. So that stuff's less of a hassle. The one thing I still don't have really nailed down is the IARs. They do take longer to make because I make them in much, much smaller batches. So it's by demand for those to get made. The 20-inch reigns supreme because it's the one product that stands out most. Like I think a lot of guys could justify building out a 20-inch LMG as it's different, right? It's just different than probably what most guys are going to have in their collection. Most guys have probably multiple 13.9s and 14.5s and 16 inches.
Yeah, Mark.
But like, you'll find yourself like restless rifle syndrome is a real thing.
Exactly.
You'll find yourself having the same kind of like gun and like multiple deals, but it doesn't really do anything different. The 20-inch kind of does that for a lot of people. And for me, I believe it's the superior version. I built the best version, I think, right out the gate. Everything else is in support of helping sell that one. You know, we do offer a non-adjustable version because rifle speeds are not cheap. So that can drop the price down on the upper receiver group. But that ultimately made people go, well, shit, I kind of just want the one with the rifle speed on it then, you know?
Yeah.
But I make quite a few versions of things for people.
Yeah, and I see that you guys have a 308 version as well. Is there any plans for like a 6.5 version as well?
I get waves of the 6.5 emails, and then they go away for a while. Then I get a wave of 6.5, create more emails. And that's going to require a whole barrel build. Like I can't source a barrel in that profile that matches that stuff in 6.5. For some reason, everybody on the goddamn market wants to make a 6.5 with a fucking 8.75 gas journal, which just, dude, it's a fucking 6mm bullet. Seems smaller than 30 cal when we do that. Like, you just use a standard 750 gas journal. It'd be great. You know, that would make my life easier. But I would have to have that barrel made. And quite frankly, getting into the AR-10 game is, you know, with the Recce Mar, which is the modern auto rifle, which is our 308 upper receiver group. It was the goal of that was to make that adapt and run as best as we can across the board on multiple blowers. AR-10s traditionally don't do that. Like it's so hard to get parts that want to work together. I have a lot of guys, of course, wanting me to do an SR25 pattern version because now suddenly a bunch of guys think that's the superior way to fucking make it. DPMS cut versus SR25 cut it's to me, it's just fucking aesthetics. But again, there's that divide in that deal. There's no mil spec on AR-10s, so that's a whole other animal of shit. And it's expensive. They're just fucking expensive. Like my costs on things on that are just really high. And to get into shooting 308 as an auto rifle, to me, I prefer 5.56, but I had a lot of demand to do 308, so I did 308. Like obviously, as a small company, it's like, if we do it first, there we go. It's kind of like we stamped it. Yeah, we can show off how well we can adapt the idea to other platforms, and I'm all about that. We've even adapted the heat sinks to the BRN 4s, heavy barrels. But the 308 was, kind of a request from my good buddy Jeremy over at Everyday Citizens Tactical. Him and his guys, they really wanted a medium weight. They wanted that 30 caliber support weapon. Sure. And that's shared a lot amongst Appalachia. Yeah. Like the Appalachia guys are really big in the 30 cal, and I sell a ton of the LMGs to that region. But those groups are all looking to do like 30 cal weapons now, and so we are working with Jack Morris over at the Professional Citizen Project. They're actually working on adapting that to one of their manuals because they have talked about medium support weapons. So they're doing a bunch of testing on that right now. So you'll see more on the 308 stuff as time comes. As that popularity increases on certain products, then I'll invest more time into expanding that and then shrinking that lead time as the demand shows up for it. It's not worth having $100,000 worth of inventory for a gun that you sell 2 of every 3 months. Yeah. I try to stay flexible as a business. I try to adapt a lot. This summer it was kind of the retro stuff. I wanted to do a retro upper and then include my heatsink system and kind of pay homage to the Colt LMG, which is where a lot of my inspiration came from. So I did the Resto mod is what I called it. The Resto mod LMG and LSW. LSW being a flat top, kind of like the Colt Canada version. They did a flat top right out the gate, but Colt originally did the carry handle on the LMG. So our LMGs are the carry handle.
Yeah, I meant to ask way back, and I know we're about to go another quick rabbit hole.
You could probably delete half the first part of the podcast.
No.
I was Kamala word salading that whole fucking thing. So I apologize. I'm trying to how do we make this flow better?
No. So your Resto model, I was looking at it. How are you sourcing where's the I guess the handguard coming from?
The handguard. Okay, so the handguard is a fun story. Everybody wants to know about that cool ass handguard. Right?
Yeah.
So the Colt, when Colt made the Colt LMG, right? They made some for the United States government, and the United States government was like, nah, we're good. We don't want it. Well, Canada, they did trials. They did not want to adopt it. Yeah. Oh, Canada. They didn't want to do the fucking saw. So they were interested in following closer to how the British did it, right? The British had the SA-80, and then they had an LMG version of the SA-80, right? So it was a bullpup with a longer barrel. And so Canada kind of following suit, even though they kept to the M4 platform where fucking Britain wanted to do the gay bullpup shit. They wanted to follow the same concept. So that Canada really liked the Colt LMG. And then they did some versions of it where they eventually made it a flat top, put an L-can on it, and that became their light support weapon. But when Colt was doing that, they basically just was like, here, Demaco, you do it, because Demaco is owned by Canada. Canada will only buy Canadian-made guns, right? Just kind of like America. Like we try to buy solely, like it has to be made here in America for a defense deal. Like very compliant or whatever. But so a lot of that tooling for the Colt LMG stuff went north. Like it left us. Not a lot of Colt LMG products were left here in the United States. That's why they're kind of a dime a dozen now. But Colt, being even the massive manufacturing ability that Colt of today, it's still like GM and whatnot. Yes, they have their own machine shops, but guess what? They source a lot of stuff from all sorts of places. And they use lots of machine shops to help supplement what they can't make in mass. So I happened to run into a company called Retro Arms. Terrible website, great guy. He needs to fix the website. He knows. Don't send an email saying to fix your website because he fucking knows. He's working on it. He's a machinist first, and then he happens to also like the Colt stuff. And apparently, at one point or the other, I was told that they did a lot of OEM work with Colt, and somehow he happens to have a mold for that handguard in his possession. And so occasionally he does runs where he'll do it in the proper thermoset plastic that the issued ones were done in. Thermoset plastic is a special polymer that actually gets stronger with the heat. It does not burn or melt. It will char. The way the plastic is, it holds its stuff it holds together a lot longer. It doesn't catch such sun on fire like a traditional M4 handguard would. We've all seen those melt off in meltdown tests and stuff. That handguard plastic is not the same type of plastic, and so it won't do that. It'll basically get brittle after a while. Like you get so hot, it'll hold the heat, handle the heat, but at one point it will get brittle, but it won't catch fire. So it's the proper thermoset plastic, and so he's been making some of his own kind of like LSW looking builds. He makes like the Canadian Tri-Rail, which wraps around the front of it. It's pretty neat. But I saw that he had them, and I've been working on the Resto Mod project for like a year at that point, and it was the one thing I needed to figure out was how was I going to do the damn handguard. Like I had some really awesome guys in the 3D printing community working with me to help like 3D print handguards. Yeah. And it's just they can never quite come out right, And I stumbled across his stuff, and I was like, "Hey, man, you want to sell me those?" He was like, "Yes, I will absolutely. How many you want?" It was one of those you can again a guy who his job normal thing is to supply people with parts. It's not really him to make a product. He builds a product and moves it for other people to build. And I told him, he was selling without heat shields. I asked him to build mine with heat shields. So he made a mold and pressed heat shields for him and installed them, and I bought them as a unit. And those are made to fit the 750 gas journal. Like they make the end cap that holds the handguards to the front sight base, but also goes down to the proper journal size. Because the original Colt LMGs had a 936 gas journal, which required them to have a 936 A2 front sight base. When's the last time you've seen one of them floating around?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just not there. Sidebar, the everybody's like, well, fucking PSA is doing it. Sidebar, that was a fucking Colt kit. had like 3 things from PSA on it, if that, and they're like, we're just seeing what the market's like, because at this point I've been in business 3 years selling light support weapons and auto rifle upper receivers, and then magically PSA is like, can we make a clone of this and maybe tap into that market? If they ever make that thing, it's going to be a $3,000 upper receiver. It would be the most expensive thing H&R ever produces, because none of those parts are here in America. You have to legitimately fucking tool up to do it all, and that's going to be dumb expensive. Henceforth, why I call it a Resto Mod, because it's made with it. It's a facsimile of that design. It looks like a duck, but it ain't a duck. It's it looks like a Colt LMG, but realistically, it has way more in common with just a Colt A2 H bar.
Yep.
But it has my heat sink system on it, and it looks cool. And it looks cool as hell,
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of fun. And I wanted to do that for me. A lot of people are like, "Why do you do that project, and why do you spend all that money?" I thought it was cool. I wanted to do it. I mean, I'm the captain of my own ship, and it's like, damn it, I want to make that. So. The advertising now is kind of slowly coming out for it. Blue Jean Operator took it to Lethal Weapons Texas. He did well with it. He had a good time with it. And there's some videos starting to kind of come out on it. I got the 2 demos. They're finally kind of making the rounds. So people kind of know what it is. That's usually the biggest problem as a small business, is just having people know who you are.
Exactly.
But surprisingly enough, I mean, I run into a lot of random people, and they're like, "Oh, I know who you are." I'm like, "Oh shit, that's cool."
It can be cool. Sometimes it cannot be. It depends on
for me, the other day I ran into Mountain Mullets in America. Yeah, he's a YouTube channel, and happened to just be standing next to me. I was like, "Oh, what's up, man?" He moved here to Idaho too, so that's kind of convenient. But slowly, people know about it. I'm a small company. I don't pay big money to Leviathan or somebody to advertise my shit. I don't pay for ad space. I work with YouTube creators that are willing to just borrow a product, and I'll pay for the ammo. And I just want their God's honest opinion of what they thought of it. Yep. You don't have to do any crazy long-term review. I'm doing that. Like those 2 uppers, they come back with even higher round counts. And I continue to jot all that down and keep an eye on everything for longevity testing and whatnot. And I just want to know what people think of them,
Absolutely.
And you get guys like Blue Jean Operator who are just, he said he's a diehard fan of the concept. Like he was like, I'm all in. I love this idea. Like, some people are like, this is great. I have no use for it, but I had a lot of fun with it. I'm like, cool. I speak your mind. I'm not here to like censor people or ask for a good review. Just shoot it and have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, Cody, man, we really do appreciate you spending the last couple of hours with us and just kind of talking through a whole bunch of different stuff. Jefe, what do you got here? Here's your parting thing as you stare blankly into the wall.
He's like, oh, this guy's boring shit.
No. I'm trying to find some deep words of wisdom.
Pull something from your range day training.
Oh, range day training. Yeah, things fall apart really quick when you try to shoot an AR one-handed. So practice that.
Oh, yeah.
You realize that how hard it is to hold the bolt, lock the bolt back with only one good hand. So maybe find some creative ways to make that work.
Yeah. That's actually.
I mean, like you're talking like one-handed, like wounded drills or something.
Yeah. So, behind the curtain again, I'm also a law enforcement officer and range instructor, and we have our guys going through wounded officer around vehicle drills today, and the amount of people that just look at me like, well, my rifle stopped working. Okay, well, you figure this out.
Up, or you're gonna
like you just can't
fix, or you're gonna die, bro.
Yeah. So
time out.
So, and it sucks because we do about 2 hours of teaching people how to do all this stuff, and then get them on the range, and they look at us like, "Wait, how was I supposed to do this again?" Like, well, I gave you 2 hours to play with it, and you decided to yap your mouth. So I don't know what to tell you, dude. So learn how to run a AR one-handed and lock the bolt to the rear one-handed.
Yeah. Man,
I'll show you how to do it.
Please, show me how to do that. At least show me your way of how to do it.
There's 2 ways.
There's 2 ways. Yep. Okay. So my big thing is you guys are hopefully listening to this on the 1st of November. Go out and vote. Find someone to take with you to go and vote. I'm black-pilled when it comes to voting, but at the same time, it's how we're going to get through this, I suppose.
Or shoot our way out of it.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Right?
On
Minecraft. Yeah. So that's what I've got to say. Go be a good patriot and vote vote your values into office. I guess that's the best way to say it. So with all that being said, we're going to go ahead and start closing this down and get out of here. Again, we want to say thank you to Cody and Red Right Hand. I will have all of his contact, social media presence stuff in the description of this podcast. So if you guys are interested in swinging by and checking things out, by all means do so. Follow him on Instagram, X, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, OnlyFans, all of that type of stuff. And support small businesses. I mean, that's what it really boils down to. So with all of that being said, don't forget to live, laugh, and LARP. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye, y'all.